Susan Cantley.
Susan Cantley. And you've been in Nipigon area for how many years?
Since 1977.
1977. Okay. Where did you come from?
I came from Toronto.
Oh, from Toronto. Okay,
Yeah.
so you were a city girl.
Yes, I was a
remember
city
that.
girl. Yes,
Yeah.
that's true.
Was it a hard adjustment coming up here?
It was different, but I grew up when I was young on a farm. I lived out in around the Newmarket area.
Newmarket area, they
Yeah.
have rich topsoil there.
Well, but for the first 4 years of my school life, I went to one of these schools that was one teacher, 8 grades. Like 2 kids to a grade or 1 child to a grade.
Was it different when you came up here, or was it similar, like in terms of schooling?
Well, no, I went to school in Toronto.
Okay, for most of your life.
Yes.
You finished schooling down
Yes,
in
but
Toronto.
because I had the farm background,
Yeah.
coming up north was sort of easy for
It
me.
was easy. It was a good adjustment.
Yeah, because see, I like this type of pioneer atmosphere.
Yeah. So
Because
you
it
fit-
works for me,
you
yes.
fit right in.
Yeah, I like the country life.
Now, I hear you had a home called a Muskoka home, or a Muskoka model home. Is that the model of the home that you built out on near Red Rock?
No, we
what was
don't
the
have
model
that.
called? The model, I thought, of the home that you built there. Maybe it wasn't Muskoka. It could be another
No.
title. It was kind of a fashionable modeled home, and you guys built it on near Red Rock Road from scratch.
Well, the home that we built, it was a beaver home, a prefab, and it was a Halliburton.
Halliburton, that's what it was.
Yes.
Not Muskoka.
No,
Halliburton.
it's a Halliburton, and it's a common one because there's a lot of homes here that are
That's
called
what it was.
Halliburton. It's as soon as you go in, it's a split level.
Okay.
But it was different because we customized it. We changed it all inside.
Okay, that was on the highway, the old highway.
Yes, the old highway.
Yeah. Okay, so tell me a little bit about that home and how special it was to you. How did you customize it and make it special?
Well, we customized it by having it all open concept.
Mm-hmm.
So I got rid of the upstairs, like the walkway, like there was like, so you go through a, what do they call them?
Hallway?
Yeah, the hallway. So I got rid of the hallway that was upstairs. So it was all kitchen. I put patio doors in. And then it was all open. And then in the living room, we added a fireplace against the wall and 2 small little windows beside it. So that was all custom. And then as you go up, the wall was a half wall.
A half wall.
So it was all open, the living room and the dining room.
An open concept.
Open concept.
Oh, that's
And then later on, what I did was off the dining room, I added my greenhouse.
You did?
I had a greenhouse.
What did you grow in a greenhouse?
I grew all sorts of plants. I did everything in there. I had a jacuzzi in there. I had all sorts of plants there all winter. Oh, yeah.
Sounds like paradise.
It was.
Did you have herbs?
Yes, I had all sorts of flowers. I'm a flower lady.
Yeah. And herbs, flowers.
Yeah.
Any tropical trees
Yes.
or anything like that?
I tried a banana plant. It grew for a while, and then I was like my mother-in-law. If it didn't do well, I chucked it out, and I went through a lot of stages.
Yeah.
Lipstick plants. It was so
It was
that kind of
trial
thing.
and error.
Yeah, but I had a beautiful jade plant.
Jade.
Oh yes, the jade plant was beautiful. It was big and it bloomed for me, made beautiful white flowers. And I had a beautiful azalea. It made flowers for me. So certain things did very well because the azalea, when I went to the horticultural, I won a first show for it.
You did? Oh,
Yes.
congratulations.
Yeah,
How
yeah. So I
exciting.
did that 1 year. I put
Yeah.
all my houseplants in, and everything that I put in, I won.
Oh,
Yeah, that was
good.
very exciting. Well, my mother-in-law got me involved in all of this. This was the good things that I had learned from Gertie Cantley, my mother-in-law.
Gertie Cantley. And
Yes.
was she original to this area? Or did she come from another country? Or
When I met them, they were living here.
Mhm.
How was her story? Well,
What was her
her
background?
grandmother, Mrs. Matson, they're the ones that had property. Because I think Gertie and Alec, they also sort of lived in Quebec.
Okay.
During the wartime,
Wow.
they were in those factories
where
they were making bullets for the war.
Oh, good Lord.
And that's where Gert and Alec met.
Oh, how exciting.
So they lived in Montreal, and unfortunately I can't remember all the names. I think it was Herder or something. The lady really took to Gertie, so they met there and they got married. But the weird thing is even Alec, I guess, in his days of single or whatever, he even lived in Toronto on King Street. So he knew about Sunnyside and like my area and everything. So it was actually very intriguing, of how their story they met, because Brian was actually born in Montreal. He's French. And then when the mill here and Alec was looking for work, Mrs. Matson had the property. So she gave Gert and Alec her part of the, across the highway. So I grew up listening to their stories of how, it's a horse buggy and, they had the old ice. In the wintertime, they had to go in the wagon to work and everything, and how they had tons of snow. Like, they really lived through hard times.
Oh, pioneer times.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. They was all pioneer. And the reason I could relate to them, because when I lived on my farm, I sort of had the same life. We were, we had to go outside to the outhouse. We had no running water. We had to wash in those little bathtubs that they had, those little aluminum things. My mother had to put these heating things on, so we were being washed that way until my father finally puts a toilet out, outside of the house kind of thing, where we were storing, where we're storing wood. So he put a makeshift toilet there for us, like a bathroom. So they sort of had the same thing, and then they progressed all through.
So it was a nice fit for you to come up.
It was. It was
you
very.
enjoyed that type of lifestyle.
Yes, I found it was very intriguing. I always wanted to know how it was living up north, and now I am.
And you found lots to do, and your hobby in horticultural was keeping you busy.
Well, no, because my story is I was a city girl who wanted to know about country life, so I lived out in the country all the time. Gertie, what she did is she introduced me sort of to all her hobbies, and taking care of plants and everything. For me, it's very natural. So I got intrigued with her because she was sort of like a role model. She was one that she set her mind to something. Like, she was into everything. She did pottery. She did raising chickens. She raised rabbits. She raised the flowers. Everything she learned was all self-taught. What she did was she got a book. She signed up for a class, and she taught herself all about flowers. Yeah.
And that's probably what they had to do back then. If they wanted to know how to do something, they could go to the library.
Well, she was one of these people that she was always learning. Mm-hmm. And then she had the skill. She was a natural in crafts. That's why my family, I liked Gert and Alec, because they were a couple that was so well together. I called them the Santa Clauses. Because Gertie had the crafts, but Alec did all the woodworking. He loved woodworking. So they were a good match. So Gertie was she was motivated by making money so she could be self-employed. She always didn't want to be under Alec's thumb, as she put it. So she wanted, her whole motive was she had to be independent. And that's why she did, everything she did was to generate income.
Okay.
The flower shop. Yes, very, very, very. And she had the knack.
And she had a flower shop?
She had a flower shop off the front of the house that was torn down. She had she had a flower shop out there. And then her thing was, her instinct was such that I knew I had to expand. So then she had a shop here off Zechner's. Yeah, where the flower shop was. I think it's closed down now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, because now it's what are we now there?
The Gazette?
The Gazette. No, not that Gazette. This is off Zechner's. United Parcels. They do parcels there. Okay. But that used to be a flower shop. Wow. And that was where Gertie was, and she sold the business, and then I think it was Saracen, they took over, and then maybe something happened, and then it closed down or whatever. Yeah.
So she did do quite a lot, and she was really industrious. But how many children did she have too?
She had 4, 3 boys and 1 girl.
She was very busy.
Yeah. And the interesting again thing, everything's, to me, everything is fascinating. To me, I love people's stories. Her story is the boys, the children are, excuse me, pregnant threes. So she had the children, the first boy, excuse me, let's go get a glass of water. It was the pregnant three. So the first child was Brian Cantley. Then after him, 3 years later, was Peter Cantley. 6 years later was Paul Cantley. And then after that, 9 years was Hetty Cantley.
Okay.
So the children were very wide spread out.
Okay.
And they've all been successful. Brian Cantley was in the paper industry. Peter Cantley was in the floral shop, and he did very well. He was working with Superstore Loblaws.
No kidding.
Oh, yes. He was the big guy heading all the flower shops for Toronto, and he was like worldwide. Even now, he's still doing some kind of business in florals. Paul Cantley, he was mechanical, so he's heavy-duty mechanic. And Hetty, she had her flower shop in Thunder Bay, and now she works for Smith's. So they were all very good, successful children.
Hetty was a daughter.
Hetty was the daughter, yes.
Okay.
She was the last one.
Was Brian the oldest?
Brian was the oldest.
And how did you meet?
Well, Brian, that's another thing. He was in Toronto. He met my sister, Christine, and he liked chumming around us. It was like a platonic relationship, but he liked being around my sister and me because we were wild children. We were the type that we were, adventurous.
Lots of life.
Lots of life, and he loved taking us, and he loved dancing with us, and he loved Chris because he was like in the paper industry, so he was always going to the nightclubs, taking pictures and doing articles on everybody. So that's how Chris met Brian.
So when you say paper industry, you mean like was he a journalist?
He was the editor of the Etobicoke Gazette.
Editor of the Etobicoke Gazette.
And then he moved up, and then he became, now he never really explained exactly what he was doing, but he moved up that he was in the Laurentian paper. Mm-hmm. So he was like a big person there he was satelliting all the other gazettes. Like he would go to Thunder Bay and they would touch base or whatever, but he was doing work, I guess, to maybe help, the gazettes promote things. He never really explained it to me, so I never totally understood it all. But I know he had a dream that he was a real hockey fan. He loved the Montreals, and he wanted to sort of set up, to make like a museum for the gazettes kind of thing. But that has never happened yet. But that was one of the wishes he wanted, but he passed away. Yeah, he died of, did he have pancreatic cancer? He had cancer, and so he passed away from that.
Now, this Halliburton house that was near Red Rock on the highway.
Yeah.
And the other land that was in the family of
the Cantleys, yes.
The Cantleys. That was across from you, right?
Well, the Matsons had where, where the Wentz are? Mm-hmm. That house there, they tore down the grandmother house. Their house, I think they have maybe, I'm not sure if it's 50 or 100 acres of land. That's where Mrs. Matson, the grandmother, lived. And then the Cantleys, she gave the Cantleys the property across from them. So where Gertie was to our place, it was about 9 acres. No, it was about, I think, 17. So they had to give us 10 acres of land so we could build according to the, the rules of the township. And they kept 7 acres for themselves.
Okay. Were both of the family homes expropriated when the new highway was
Not
taken
the,
up?
yeah, Gert and Alex, yeah, theirs was, and we were, and Dennis Bernard, that end was, we were all, so it was Gert and Alec, Paul and me, Susan Cantley, and then Dennis Bernard. Those 3 houses at the end were, because they widened the highway. So because they widened it, what am I saying right now? I think the middle of the highway is going down the middle of my living room. because it's 2 lanes, right?
Yeah.
So
Oh, no.
the extra highway they added out, it goes down the middle of where my house was.
Can you imagine? It's good
Yeah.
thing you got out of there. But how did they initially contact people to tell them that the houses were going to be expropriated?
I think they sent a letter.
A letter first.
Yes.
Did you have to accept it, or could you deny it? Like, not deny it, but could you, refuse it?
No.
No way. It was.
No, because from what I recall, because I wasn't in on all of it, but what I recall was it was being expropriated. What you could bicker about was what you wanted to get for it, because it had to be even, what you were losing, you had to get back. So it had to be common. So that's where, and they gave a timeline. The whole time it started was about 3 years. So later on, what it was they said they gave a deadline when you had to be out. And if you wouldn't go out, then they would call the sheriff and they would just kick you out. So we had a certain time. So by the time we moved, we were under the gun, because that October of the year that I returned, that was the year that we were looking and we didn't know what to do. I didn't want to build again, and we were looking for places, and I said, don't worry about it, something's going to come. And then I was working with Riviera at that time, home caring, and sure enough, one of my clients said, well, Danny Mignall down the road there, he has a garage, his house is for sale. So we looked at it, and sure enough, because it wasn't advertised anywhere, so by word of mouth we went, and they said they had a price that was firm, and we paid them the price, and we got their house.
Danny Mignall?
Yes, he moved into Nipigon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Danny and Nancy Mignall.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think I met them.
Yeah. So that was their house.
And you waited right till
Right to the very end. We moved out, it was June, and the house was being expropriated by that October of that year.
Was it a traumatic time for you to lose the house and all your?
Well, the hardship was looking for something,
Mm-hmm.
Because Paul wanted something that had a garage, and there's nowhere around here available that had a garage. Like he gave up a big, like a Brennan's, it was I'm trying to think what the dimensions were, 24 feet by 48 feet long, so there was nothing available. And I wasn't, like we were, 64 years or 63 years old. I'm not building from scratch at this time in my life. No. So Danny's was a good substitute. It was good enough.
And had the garage.
Yeah, but see, that whole big garage was Paul's so-called his retirement plane. See, he was going to go sell business and everything, but he, then it still worked out, because then he started working for the Ministry of Transportation. So in a roundabout way, I'm going to say he did okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And how did they take the houses down, those 3 houses that were expropriated?
I think they hired Thompson,
Mm-hmm.
and they just bulldozed it down.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you watch?
We had pictures. Paul had them.
Okay.
They're on his camera.
Wow.
Yeah, he has. I'm not sure. Maybe even, I don't know if David Koski might have some pictures.
What sort of emotions went through you as you watched all that?
Well, I'll tell you, when I came back and the house was gone, I had a sickness in the pit of my stomach, because every time I drove by there, I knew it was my house. Yeah, so
that's tough, eh?
that was, it took me, I don't know, about 6 months to get used to it. That's where it was.
How many years did you live in that one?
Oof, I lived there from 1984 till about 2011.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a long time.
It is a long time.
Yeah. It took me a long time to get rid of that feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now I drive by and it's okay.
It's okay.
Yeah, but when I came back, it was, yeah.
Did you know anybody that was killed on the highway when it was not twinned and, not really safe?
All I know is that I think that's why we were slated that the house had to go.
Yeah.
because our house was on a curve, and it was dangerous. And the whole time I lived there, there were, I'm going to call 3 accidents, but they weren't that traumatic. Like people would hit the hydro pole, or they went into the ditch, or they smashed or something. There were about 3 of them.
Okay.
So to me,
They
yeah.
got rid of the curve, I guess.
Well, that's why they had 3 plans, and on the plans, 2 of them showed that we were gone. Because the 20 could have been on the other side of the highway, not our side. Mm-hmm. But they chose our side because I guess it was less homes to get rid of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that's how all that came about.
Yeah, because that highway, I know when I talk to people around here, they say, well, someone so-and-so lost their dad on that highway, or that so-and-so crashed on that highway, and all sorts of things. Not exactly in the spot where you were, but just on Highway 17 generally. You know?
Well, it depends where. I mean, there has been. All I know is, I think there might have been one bad accident, but it's so, far back. Like there was glass and everything on the highway.
So it's a good idea that they twinned it, and from
it
what
was,
yes. From what I can hear, most people are pretty happy with that, with the results, and they're seeing how nice and broad it is, and
yeah, I'm happy for it.
It's quite scenic, when you come around that corner and see that big mountain of red. It's really beautiful.
And that's the other thing, and you can see more of the lake now.
Yeah.
Like I never realized how close I was really living to the lake.
Which lake is that?
Well, Lake Superior.
Lake Superior.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
See, I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know you could see it from there.
Well, we're in our house and all the bush because we had all the trees back there, and it was all swampland.
Wow.
So that's all gone now. So then when I drive by there, I go, oh my God, I can see what's really back there. It's like, oh my God, it was more beautiful than I realized because we were always down and we were sheltered with all the beautiful birch.
Right, you couldn't see everything.
Yeah, the whole 10 acres was all beautiful birch.
Wow. I heard you worked at the Township of Red Rock office for
yes, I did.
Years
26 years.
26 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was that like for a young lady?
Well,
was it fun?
It was interesting. The reason it was interesting because you might say I lived through the computer age. In other words, I lived from the computer when it was a dinosaur. No, I lived through the age of when I was doing billings on those old push machine. And I was actually very quick on it. I mean, I even developed fibromyalgia in my arm. I had a big bump here because it took me 3 days to punch all those things and get my billings done for the Red Rock people. Yeah. So I went from being manual, the old style machines that you have in the museum. Yeah. Then I went to the archaic computers that it was like really old. And then I watched the progression of how the computers advanced because municipal accounting is, our machines are special software programs that are geared especially for municipal accounting. So it's software. So we went from those little archaics and now it's, these big fancy machines. But it was very stressful because those archaic computers were always breaking down. And so it was, frustrating, you're trying to get the work done and you have to wait for them to fix it and all this. And you had to transpose all this information onto there. And then every time you got a new computer program, you had to upgrade your knowledge. So you had to know how to run the program.
Wow.
So it was actually very interesting.
Well, who taught you all the different machines and computers?
Self-taught.
You were self-taught.
I was very resourceful that way.
You are clever.
I
Your
am.
hands have seen each piece of machinery. You've touched each one through the generations. And, and
I have.
They went quite quickly. Like new models came
out.
Yes,
It was just going and going, and then they were always coming, and we're upgrading and upgrading. It was actually pretty,
But you didn't find it stressful?
It was stressful.
It was stressful.
It was stressful for me because it was, it's just because I'm the type of person that I like everything perfect. And when things are breaking down and I'm not getting my work done, you know, it's self-induced kind of. Some
or
people
losing all the work. Remember, people would
I
input
know.
a whole bunch, and then all of a sudden.
But that's the whole
crash.
point. I was seeing how I thought, oh my God, computers are going to put people out for so much because the computers were getting more and more. And you have to remember, computers are only as smart as the inputter. See, my computer's always, I mean, I was good at, I'm going to call, if things were going wrong, you had to understand this went wrong because this file wasn't set up right, and every time they gave us upgrades, then if you had custom work, you lost it, so you had to make sure everything was right all the time. So the work was all generated. You have to make sure sub-files are set up proper, so then the computer would do what you want. So it sounds, I make it sound easy, but it was very, it's a good thing I had a detective mind.
Yes, and it would have been quite stimulating, I think.
It was,
You know,
but then
kept you
I
on
got,
the ball
yeah, but
and-
then I was too good. I was getting bored.
You were getting bored.
Well, because I could key punch, you know, the cash receipts, and I could daydream. Well, because I've been there for 26 years, you
do it in
know.
your sleep.
Yeah, you
Did
know.
anybody ever come in the office, at the township office there, and were they ever angry or anything like that they couldn't build a house the way they wanted, or?
Well,
where
you
they
always
wanted?
had some clients that were always upset. I mean, this was the funny thing. People complain about the taxes always being too high. They don't want to pay. So we had some clients, I'm not going to mention their name, that, you know, the girls are saying, okay, he's coming in because, you know, who's going to take him? Because we said, well, we're going to get, you know, our boss to take him because, you know, he's threatening he's going to shoot us or whatever, you know.
Who was the boss at the time?
That was when Mick Grew was there.
Mick Grew.
Yeah,
He was
so-
like the, what would you call him?
He
then?
was the chief administrative officer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Same as today.
Yeah.
CA.
Well, it went from clerk treasurer, and then they started changing it to chief administrative officer.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah. I mean, you always have your one or two clients that are like that.
Red Rock was a very busy town at that time and had a lot of people
Yes.
in there. And,
Yes.
you know.
Well, I've seen the towns go through a lot of shifts. You know,
Yeah.
they were at their peak. You know, everybody. You know, the mill. I mean, everybody had a good life because everybody had two incomes. They were making very good money. You know.
Two incomes in terms of like the.
Well, father or
females
the husband and wife are both working at the mill.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Oh, you didn't?
No, I thought it was just all the men mostly working.
No,
And then
no. The women,
maybe
they
were
were
at
working
home.
in the office, or even some women, they were working out in the back there.
So there was a lot of money coming in.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Especially for the two income people. Yeah. Husband and wife. Yeah.
Wow.
And then women, they could be in the labor pool.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
It was a big blow when they heard the mill was going to be closing. Did they get a lot of preparation time, or was it kind of sudden, or what happened?
You'd have to confirm all that. I know the blow was Woodlands went first. Woodlands, I believe, shut down first. And then, of course, because of the unions, everything was, you know, seniority. So then there was all the pushing around kind of thing, you know. The bumping, they called it. Everybody was bumping everybody,
Okay.
you know. And then, so when the first thing went down, I believe Woodlands went because Woodlands, everybody became jobbers.
Jobbers.
Jobbers, they call them, meaning you had to own your own equipment
Okay.
and you were contracted. So Domtar would contract you, okay, we need a slasher, you know, you're doing it, we're paying you so much, but you're the jobber, they call them jobbers. You are in charge of, you know, that kind of, so that's how all these other people started getting jobs that way. And that's when my husband,
Okay.
heavy duty mechanic, that's how sort of Paul's service sort of came into effect. Because being a mechanic, he sort of worked on that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was, you know, that kind of thing.
Yep.
Yeah. And then I guess when the mill, I think when the first paper machine went down, I believe it was newsprint or something. When that went down, well, then that's when there was a lot of bumping again. So then that's when there were payoffs, you know, early retirement. And then when the last closure came, then that's already they had put in place where people were getting retrained through employment, the Canadian government. So then they were trying to retrain people.
Why do you think the machines were not
there was
needed?
there was no demand anymore for newsprint.
Why?
Computers.
Oh, computers.
Computers
Oh,
got
boy.
rid of it. Emails. This is what I'm saying.
Computers.
Computers got rid of jobs. You don't need newsprint. You don't need paper. Emails. Everybody's texting. Computer.
Wow.
So the newsprint went. Don't need it.
Mm-hmm.
So the craft machine was still going, and then I believe the craft machine, they transferred it to be down in Toronto because Domtar has a mill down in Toronto, and it was more feasible for them. And plus, around here, what was happening was, it's called demand. Getting trees was hard. Getting trees is getting very expensive because they cut all the closeness, and now you have to go further and further and further away. So now it's becoming more and more and more expensive.
The traveling.
The traveling, and I know they're still cutting, but I'm not too sure. I'm out of the loop now, so I'm not too sure. I know there's Wyatt Pollock in White River. They still have jobbers working there. Thunder Bay's pulling, but I'm not too sure where the wood's coming from because I see transports hauling wood to Thunder Bay. So I'm not too sure what area they're coming from now.
Yeah, probably up near Fort Francis and stuff like that.
Well, Fort Francis would be supplying those mills there. I'm thinking
that's
the
true.
transports that are going, I'm sure they're going to Thunder Bay.
Okay.
But they're hauling from way up north. Like, I don't know how far up in White River they're going, like how far up north they're going.
Okay.
Because they are cutting there. But again, those are being done by jobbers.
Mm-hmm.
And then Terrace Bay, they're getting their wood from whoever's supplying them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What do you think Red Rock and Nipigon could do to have a resurgence of jobs or industry, or what do you think they could do?
That has always been on my mind.
What would you do if you were in
Well, see, job-wise, you need industry. So I cannot see what kind of new industry would be here. It would have to be along the lines, and this you'd have to ask the young ones. It would have to be along the lines of computer technology. I don't quite understand. You know how everybody says for emails and all this stuff, your information is stored in cyberspace.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what does that really mean? See, somebody, this young boy in Red Rock had mentioned that they need places where you have, I guess, computers running, and that cyberspace is really these computer offices that store everything. So I don't know if that would be some type of, see, the younger ones seem to know that because you have to go now what's coming into effect.
Mm-hmm.
My thing is, I thought that these towns would be more along the lines of retirement homes.
Mm-hmm.
Because what we have to offer around here is we've got nature. We've got clean air. We've got Lake Superior. So to
Would
me,
tourism work, some kind of thing?
well,
that
I
would
think
draw
they
them
are
here?
trying,
They're
trying the tourism, yes. That's why you find that the homes are always occupied because it's going back to nature, and there's going to be people in the bigger cities, they're selling their homes like for millions of dollars, so they would be, if anybody wants, they would, move to the smaller towns, and then that would be their life because that would be like a retirement place.
Mm-hmm. That would be perfect.
Yeah.
I could see that happening.
Yeah, I could see Nipigon.
On doing things for seniors and
Yes.
doing some fun
Yeah.
things for them, setting it all up.
See, to me, my home here that I'm in, this to me is, because I'm from Toronto, this would be classified as a camp. This is a camp home. And all of Nipigon is my Elliott Lake. All the people here I'm living in a residential.
Elegant campground.
Yeah, I am. It's good because everybody, we're all seniors. I have everything here. There's schools. You know, I could go ice skating. I can go kayaking. I got everything I want as a natural person who loves nature.
Yeah.
The hiking trails around here are phenomenal. I haven't even started. I mean, I went and got myself a compass and I got a knapsack because I'm going to start hiking. Yeah, all this stuff that I didn't do before. I thought, well, if I don't have a partner or whatever, I'm going to start doing it myself. So I went and got a compass. I'm going to learn how to read a map, and I'm going to learn how to start hiking and do all these trails.
I'll join you. I would like to do the Red Rock Mountain Trail.
I want to do that one.
Yeah, so we'll set up a date and do
Yes,
that.
that's why I got a knapsack and a compass. And I got my handy cell phone.
Yeah.
Well, you can't trust these things because if the battery dies, you're out of luck.
And they might not work where you
No,
are.
and I'm not traveling if I don't know how. I'm one of these, I'm not bushwise because, of course, I'm a city person. You take me to Toronto, I could take you anywhere. You take me in the bush here, it's like you turn me around, it's like, oh crap, where am I? Even when I went blueberry picking, I had to make sure I didn't get lost.
Yeah, you turn around for a second and it doesn't look familiar anymore. You can't find your way back.
But
keep that compass. That's
well,
important.
and I got good information from Lyle Collins. He said, well, all you do is you make sure you keep turning backwards. I never thought of that. He's right, because you know what? When you're coming back, everything always looks different. So he says you always make sure you look back, and then this way you're already getting familiar. Oh yeah, that looks good. Oh yeah, I remember that. It's, I guess, training the mind to remember.
Yeah. And maybe tying something on a tree, like on a branch.
I thought of that.
Just something,
Yeah.
orange tape. Just so you can
Bring
tie your
string
trail
for
back.
it. Yes,
Yeah.
you know, we do that for the ski trails.
Yeah.
I
That's
guess
what we
they
that'd
call
be
it blazing.
good. Really?
Yeah,
Oh,
you
that's
blaze
what
the
they used to
trails.
do? Okay.
Yeah, if you go down the hiking trail by the cemetery, now somebody blazed it, but they used all Christmas ornaments. It's really cool. You see,
awesome.
you see angels hanging. Like the first time I went, I was fearful. Oh my God, I'm gonna get lost. How can I? You're just walking beside the cemetery. It's like, oh my God, like, are you real or what? And it's like, oh shit, where am I? And then I saw these things blaze. So I walked it the first time. Oh my God, this was easy. This was cool. And then it's like, hey, wait a minute, I know where I am now.
Wow.
Because I had
When
the
did
fear
you
was
do
taken
that?
away.
Wait.
I don't know. Somebody blazed it.
Blazed it. Okay,
I
so
think they
that's
did it over the winter time because there's all these little holy ornaments, you know, angels, Mother Mary, you know, stars,
pretty
snow.
good idea.
Yeah, it is. They're recycling. I liked it. I thought it was so cool.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Susan Cantley. I really enjoyed interviewing you today. You gave us lots of
Information.
and just insight into the past
Yes.
from Nipigon and Red Rock. Because you actually were quite an avid person in both communities, not just the one community. You actually know quite a lot about Red Rock and Nipigon.
Well, it's because I worked at the town office.
Exactly.
And now I'm starting to see the difference between them.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, I'm now starting to see I've started to see Nipigon in a whole different light.
We'll have to come back another day and talk.
Yes,
to you about that.
you know what? You're gonna have to give me a couple months. Like come back next year in the springtime, because now I'm starting to see a different. Because don't forget, I was when I worked for the Township of Red Rock, I was under Mick Grew's reign, because the Chief Administrative Office and the Council, they run things one way. Now I've come to Nipigon, and I've been talking with the mayor lots, because he lives close to me. He's three houses up from me, and every so often he passes by. He's very happy that he goes, I love what you're doing here. You're landscaping, you know, you're beautifying the town. He was talking about we're trying to think of beautifying Nipigon, but we need volunteers. And I said, well, I can't volunteer right now, but give me maybe next year, I'll think about it. So now I'm thinking, whoa, wait a minute. I might be able to, if they give me free reign,
You have a new job.
I might be able to start beautifying Nipigon.
How exciting.
It is.